Ivory Coast. We have 15 countries in Africa. And that is the map of Ivory Coast. And you see the little dots are our antennas in well, pretty much all over the country. So you see at the bottom, you see lots of antenna because it's a coast. There are lots of people. And there in the upper side, you see the national park where there is barely any antenna. So you imagine you are in the middle of nowhere. One person out of two has no electricity in Ivory Coast. And then we have more or less the same penetration, a bit higher penetration, like about 60% penetration of mobile. Now, what Judy said about collecting data between people, actually the call data records, the information that tells what is the call that has been made between two persons is actually very, very true and very important. What can we do with this thing? We can do maps. Okay? So we take this data and we can create maps about, for instance, on the left side you see communities, people calling each other. You can also analyze all sorts of movements of population, traffics per street, per whatever, just by looking at where people pick up a call and then later when is the next call that you will pick up or call. So just by doing that, you can find some interesting things. What could we do with the data that we have with Orange? And we define three big categories. The first one on the left is improving your core business, so improving your operation, improving your CRM, okay? Massive priority. Number one, improving your core business, making a customer more loyal, making offers that are personalized, all the things that we have taught today. The middle one is, instead of big data, with what we call small data. Small data is the data that you give back to your customer that he can exploit himself to improve what he does in his life, okay? So it is a sort of an inversion of the proposition. It's not like the smart network with smart device, with smart saving service pushing something to a dumb customer. It is a smart customer that is empowered with his data, that is asking things to companies, okay? There is a big new trend there, small data. I don't know if it's called small data, but it's personal data. And it's there in the middle. And then the right column, you see what we can do externally with this data. I mean, can we sell it to someone in some form? Can we improve the business of other people? And that's where the action that I will talk about is. It's open data, so it's the little gray area. The difference we do between open data and market data is as market, you just have a contract. You know that you will use that information for something, and this will be it. Done. It's paid or free, it's not the question. It is you control what you do with the data. Okay, so you can be more precise in the kind of information that you release. Open data can be paid, can be free, but you don't control what people do with the data. You just put it out there and see what happens. Now, open innovation is, of course, a big topic, and you can use it in all sorts of situations. We decide to do a project because we wanted to develop competencies. We were not completely at ease with really a specific question, which was crossing our data with other large databases about different things, in this case concerning Ivory Coast. Okay, so we have lots of knowledge in how to use our data and analyze it in all sorts of ways, but when it comes really to being creative, finding, crossing, imagining new things, why not open it up and see what happens, really get it out there. So we are on the right side. We don't know. It's unpredictable. There are higher risk and rewards. You need to release information. And, of course, we will lose potentially some business because we give out this information that can make profit for someone else. There are all sorts of opening and trying to find and engage customer or expert to do research and sort of a pyramid view of the question. You see at the very top, there are very, very complicated questions. So the X prices, for instance, sending a robot on the moon, like Google is doing. You don't ask that to Mr. or Mrs. anybody in the street. These are expert questions, so very, very complicated things. Usually you give a prize, but it's not necessary. It's just sort of the challenge. It's enough to motivate some teams. And then you can go down the pyramids. There are all sorts of ways to involve people outside your company to do stuff. Okay, so we are in this category of very, very complicated questions that we want to crack. We launched something called Data for Development, and the idea is that we will release very large database
and launch a challenge to the research team, universities in the world, to find ways to improve the development of Ivory Coast. Can they cross this information, or can they analyze it in any sort of way to improve movements of population, resolve access to water, access to food, find signs to spreading epidemic, all sort of questions that you can ask, and you would like to improve the world for these questions, okay? So any project that could have this sort of development objective and result is open to use our data. We do that in collaboration with a very select group of people. We tend to put it as really a challenge to show an example, because doing that is also an example to improve the way we do public policies. Not we in Orange, but as the world do public policy, which is very much opinionated and public and politic-based. There you can have facts about, I've distributed water and food. Was that efficient? Was that the right person at the right time? And so on and so forth. So you can change policies by becoming factual about these large challenges. As I said today, the result needs to be in for the 31st of January, and then there will be a publication at the MIT, and we organize an event in Ivory Coast to say, guys, can you do something with these results? Can you improve the way you do things? Okay? So we will have a website. Now, one question I would like to dig a little bit more in is the question of privacy. Of course, releasing information called data record would be completely insane, because it's really not too complicated to identify someone using call data record, individual person. So that is completely out of the question. And to give you an example, if we have a spatial signature. When you move around with your phone and you pick phone calls, or you give phone calls anywhere, you actually have a unique patterns in space of where you call and where you receive calls and so on. If you allow the most frequent 3 points where you take and you pass the most calls, just 3 of these locations, 1 person out of 2 on the planet is unique, because you live in your house, you work in your office, and maybe you do your shopping there. And there are very few people that live in your house, work in your office, and do the shopping there, okay? So with just the 3 most frequent points, 1 person out of 2 is unique on the planet. So there is no way we can publish and openly call data record, okay? So we need to anonymize that, and of course that reduces the value. So that's why we need to have a market approach where we keep that information, we can analyze it ourselves, and an open approach where we anonymize a lot of things, but not too much. Otherwise, we don't find anything, okay? So that was a difficult question we tried to crack by doing things, just understanding how to anonymize things. So we went to look at the regulation in Ivory Coast, in our license in Ivory Coast. What should we do? Barely nothing. They don't ask for privacy. There is a little bit, but frankly, not enough. So we decided, okay, we'll go the whole way. We will be more secure than the most stringent regulator, which is probably France. Okay, so we did something which is very, very secure. What is to give you a flavor of what it is? The first, we released 4 big data sets. The first one is the densities of population. So that's just we just count the number of calls made that are coming out of one antenna and going to another antenna. So you imagine a large matrix of in and outs, antenna to antenna, every day of the 5 months of the data record. It is just the volumes of calls. You can do plenty of things just with that. The next one is a little bit more precise, is that we will do, we take the whole customer base and we will see how they move, so where they make a call or receive a call. But we will just use sort of regions, not exactly the antenna in precise situation, but regions, so that inside the region we don't know who it is. So it's a bit more difficult to find out. Remember the national parks? There is probably just 2 or 3 guards having a phone, and so we would know. So we need to be careful about those guys as well, okay? So there is all sort of a consideration. When we do a fine trajectory, that means antenna by antenna, we find where people, and we take just a 10% sample, and so that we have 9 chains out of 10 not to be in the sample, I would say. And then we analyze those things. With a 10% sample on millions of customers, you have way enough customers to analyze. And then the most precise, which is more even dangerous to do, is social communication graphs. And we take a 2-degree graph, that is, I give calls and receive calls. All the person who have called me or received a call from me they've also received and sent calls. So that's a second degree. So we take my calls and my first graphs, I would say, calls. And that helps to recreate communities. And this sample is good enough statistically and in terms of connection to recreate communities that the other methods doesn't allow to. Okay? Now, the way we test that, we take this problem of privacy very seriously. So we have made that, and we say, well, at first sight, it doesn't look like someone is able to find someone. But we have made the extract, and we have submitted this database to the University of Louvain, my dear friend, and the University of Oxford. They have also a large bunch of specialists on data analytics and so on, and they are trying to crack the method before we release the data. Okay, they say there is a 0.2% chance of identifying such and such. Okay, that's okay. If it's a 30% chance, we say, we need to change the way we do our algorithm. Now, one of the things that we do as well is that we will encourage people to cross our network data with other data. So on the little database, the little website that we have published, we have made an analysis of all databases that we could find that are open data available to researchers. Okay? And we stimulate them. It's really the purpose of the challenge. I mean, take our data, take others' data, and cross it. Find something by crossing things. That's where also we are looking to improve our expertise. Huh? And also that's probably where we will find very interesting things. But there are 4 awards. There is the best overall, okay, best. Then there is the best scientific, so new methods, creativity in the approach, finding new ways of cracking a problem, and so on. There is the best development insight, something, it's a very subjective one, but something that really is helpful for Ivory Coast, something that can help population, that can be implemented, that is practical, that you can use. Because you find complicated algorithms, sometimes it's okay, yes, but now what? But this is practical usage. And then my preferred one is best visualization. So best visualization is make the data speak. So it's really taking the results of any research or working as such and present data so that we say, wow, that is really something. And there is an insight, and can we have this view and that view? Really get people excited about looking at that. These are results of NetMob. It's a conference for network analysts that was last year, which I attended to. And these are the kind of things that you see in that conference. So you sit there in a room, and you have a very, very clever guy who's talking about this phenomenal algorithm. You don't understand anything, but then they start to talk, oh, look, we have seen the movements of population. This one on the right with this green, red, and so on, it's a segregation in cities. So people live in segregated areas, I don't know, nationalities or wealth or whatever. And then do they remain segregated when they move around? So at work or when they do shopping, do they still cluster? And that was the analysis. And so it happens that at work, we keep the segregation, but when we do shopping, we meet. So learning so far, and I finish with that, obviously it's a very hot topic. It was easy to sell internally, easy. So when I start to say, well, could we do something? Or would we have a database that we can use? Very rapidly, because it's a development challenge, it's someone to help people, very rapidly saying, yeah, I can find some time to work on it. This is a database that maybe you can try, talk to that one, blah, blah, blah. So that was not too complicated. Of course, it helped that it is very much in line with the strategic objective of the company. We have decided to invest in this thing, so that helps. But the decision came after the project, so it helps, but it was not a critical factor for the decision. Very important to rely on a very strong team, R&D team with specialists, and believe me, it's necessary. When you extract titanic amounts of data and you need to see if it's clean data that you can use and prepare those data and so on, it's very, very complicated. So you need to have specialists to crack those kind of things. It's not very expensive, frankly not. I mean, we have already the data warehouse, so just a good extract of the data warehouse. For the rest, it was on a big disk, hard drive, and it was flying around, and we receive it, and we send the next version via mails and via file transfer, and there it was. It was available. We had the database, and we had 1 or 2 guys who were very clever and who could work it out. So it's not that complicated to have a workable database. Now we need to find the inside, and that we outsource our risk to the researcher community. But to make the data available, not too complicated. When you have this call data record, you have the calls of your customer, but they receive calls from the other networks, quite obviously. But you see also the new callers. And over a 5-month period, you know where the first call of someone has been made. So you can infer from that, where do we have our acquisition? Where, in terms of geo-marketing, do we get our customers? Okay? You don't want to give that to your competitor. So how do you do, how do you crack that problem? Give the information, but not the new customer. That one was an easy one, but you need to think through this question to be able to release information in an open way, okay? Data quality and so on and so on. So for the rest, it's, data set requires really a specific expertise, but it's a fantastic project, and I really am looking forward to the result, because I hope we will find something and we will have a real impact on the life of real people who need it. Thank you very much.